What's going on, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Yo ND. I'm Jeff. I'm joined with Mike, and we are going to talk a little bit about yesterday's Notre Dame game. The Irish went down to Raleigh and beat North Carolina State 45-24 and moved to 3-0 on the season. And they actually just released the AP, and Notre Dame's 9 now, because I think Bama moved out, Texas moved in. So Notre Dame's number 9 right now. And before we get started, Mike, you had as your lock of the week Auburn -6. They found a way not to cover that out in Berkeley.
I
Did you
watched it.
stay
I was
up and
like,
watch any of it? Yeah.
yeah. I watched about 3 quarters. I was like, they're just. I think their linebacker had like 8,000 tackles. Otherwise, they'd have lost.
What a pillow
They're,
fight.
they're
Well, didn't
terrible.
Cal? Auburn's first touchdown was off a turnover. Wasn't it a muff punt or something? Like they had to go 10 yards for one of their touchdowns. Their first one.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, so
yeah. It was like,
not the most outstanding. So that was your first loss, and of course, I took a big loss as well. But I was happy to do so. I fortunately didn't have money on it because I lost power. So I was busy doing other things, and the next thing I know, that Bama Texas game was real late in the fourth, and Texas just really put the foot on the gas pedal there. So I was happy to see them go down. Although now we're going to have to listen to the hype train that will be Texas. So congrats to UT. It's still a huge win.
they looked good.
Honestly, I don't know how they're not number one.
Quinn Ewers looked good.
He did, but I feel like the last few years, there's a lot of quarterbacks that have looked real good versus Bama's D. Like they're just not putting it together. Frank,
Yeah,
however, Frank is 3-0. He picked our second favorite team, if you will, Holy Cross, to cover. I think the spread officially on Saturday morning was 10.5. And I don't know if anyone watched that game, but Holy Cross fumbled the ball at BC's 20-yard line going in, down by 3, or that was at least going to overtime. Or I think Holy Cross was going to go in and punch it in because BC was not stopping them. So, congrats to Frank. And then also just to catch up with Notre Dame, all three of us are undefeated with Notre Dame. It's been pretty easy. Notre Dame's covered in every game. I was sweating it out a little bit there in the third quarter after that Hartman turnover, but let's just turn our attention over to the Notre Dame game yesterday. And, Mike, is there anything that just stuck out to you right away, just overall? Anything that you're like, all right, or that was terrible?
Um, no, I mean there's good and bad to both. I think the main takeaway from this is NC State has a pulse, especially defensively. I'm not sure offensively they're going to scare anyone. They don't throw downfield. Um, I think they're limited, honestly, with Armstrong. But Notre Dame faced adversity from a team with a pulse, a team that was amped to play them. Um, the weather could not have possibly helped Notre Dame. I don't care what anyone says. Oh, the 80-yard run. No, they faced adversity. They stuck to their game plan, and they wore them down. And at the end physically dominated.
Yeah, I had a buddy over here watching it, and he's like, "Why do they keep running it up the middle?" And I was like, "Well, they're playing in a driving rain. Number one, the other thing was, and I wrote a note here just because the first quarter it really stuck out was how North Carolina State had Notre Dame just buried in their own side. I mean, I think Notre Dame's first drive was at the 25 because it was the kickoff, then the 10, and then the 15 when they drove down to
Yep.
get the field goal. Whereas North Carolina State was starting at midfield in the 45. And Notre Dame weathered that storm. And like you said, they started leaning on them in the trenches there towards
Yep.
the end. And that's what I wanted to see. And that's awesome. I
And
don't think if Kelly and company are here, we see that. Go ahead.
they won a game where their quarterback was not crisp.
Yeah, and they were staying a little vanilla on offense at the beginning. Again, I attribute that to the weather and just not turning it over way down there. So, really, like Parker, although there is one call that I did not like in particular, but I think it was the last play of the third quarter. Was it 3rd and 2 or 4th and 2, and they went with just a set. Everyone was tight. There was no receivers.
And it
And
got
North
stoned.
Carolina State, yeah, they got stuffed and they ran right into 11 guys, and I'm like, what? Give them a different look. Get some of these guys out of the box. I only saw it once, so I assume that he's hopefully going to flush that from his system because that was telegraphed and it got eaten. I mean, it got dominated.
I
Um,
didn't like the sequence of plays before the 56-yard field goal attempt. It was like 3rd and 7. Um, I thought they should have. They didn't get the first down. I thought they should have gone for it, or I thought they should have punted,
I did
honestly.
too.
Um, but that kid's got a leg. Like even that 56-yarder was going to be good from. He just hit the bar,
Yeah, when he
but he hit
kicked
it
it off.
halfway up.
Right. I'm like, this is why I'm not a coach. Like right here, because that was a 65 yarder. It looked like lengthwise, and then
Yeah,
because it was way up on the crossbar when it finally doinked off of it.
yeah.
Speaking of which, I'm sure you're aware, but that 54 yarder he hit is actually a Notre Dame record. It breaks Kyle Brenza in 13 and Dave Reeves in 1976. They both had 53 yarders. So that was awesome. I for some reason would have imagined Notre Dame had a longer field goal somewhere down the line, but yeah, congrats to
54 is
the
pretty.
first grader.
54 is pretty far.
54 is pretty far. No, there's no disrespect there when I say that, but that was awesome. What did you think about the refereeing? The one that stuck out to me, and you might have another one because I feel like all Notre Dame fans have a little gripe here, but the pick play they called on Greathouse was horrid.
Well, to the letter of the law, it was right. He came out and you just don't do that.
He didn't even make contact with the guy, though. I understand he could
Yeah.
have sold it better.
I, I didn't think the refereeing was that bad. I thought Notre Dame was sloppy. How?
They were
Well,
sloppy. There was some call. Dude, when's the last time you saw a game with two offensive PIs?
yeah. But take officiating away. You're jumping off sides on 4th and 4 on a punt. How?
Yeah, horrible turnover.
It, you can't do that.
Well, you can see right there with the special teams what a coach means. I feel like the special teams, if you're going to complain about anything with this year's Irish, have definitely they're just making mistakes. They're not as bad as they were with Poland, but they're a definite step back from last year. And thankfully, it hasn't come up and burned them totally yet. But you're right that was 4th and 4, and he jumps off sides. That is a turnover.
Yes.
So that was a huge play. I got to give major props to the defense. I mean, especially in the first quarter. They had their backs up against the wall. And then in the third quarter, when Hartman fumbles and it's a 7-point game, they not only hold them to a field goal, but then NC State special teams jumped up and bit them. I'm sure you feel the same. Do you have anything to add to that?
I can't tell if they're that good or if
Yeah.
NC State's offense was that bad because honestly, their secondary play, no one was open, and everyone's like, "Oh, they had all these drops." That first drop, the kid from Oklahoma State, he knocked that away.
Oh,
I,
what a play, Harper! Oh,
yeah,
when he
like
came
that.
around with his
That's
left
not
arm.
a drop. He put his hand on it.
Right, and their Q, the Virginia kid, he put that right in the breadbasket too. That was
Yeah,
just a
yeah,
great defensive play. No, I'm
yeah,
happy you brought that up because I did hear him saying about a drop, and I was like, yo, that was defended. Harper
yeah. And
made
early on, Cam Hart gave up a long pass, but the throw was perfect. So that's going to happen. You're not going to live off that. You're not living off that. That you don't make those kind of throws and catches all the time. Their defense was outstanding. I've been critical of their defensive ends. Armstrong did
did
not get out
great.
of the pocket.
Did great. They had a game plan and stuck to it, and they
Yep.
did great, which is encouraging to see. I mean, they clearly knew what was coming and went after it, so that was awesome. Um, I love Greathouse, dude. I know you always fall in love with like the freshmen, but first off, let's talk about that throw Sam Hartman had on the
Unreal.
Greathouse. He looks off. I don't know if it was a linebacker or a safety because they were at like the 15-yard line or whatever it was. He looked him off, and he still had to thread the needle over him and then get it in before the corner who was covering him. And I thought it was a great catch. I realized it was there, but he was running out of real estate fast. He had a guy on his back,
And there's a hand coming
and there's
right
a
after the
hand.
ball.
And to think that Hartman just got there in Greathouse as a freshman, and I feel like they just have that chemistry. Greathouse just seems like he's going to find the end zone. He doesn't have a ton of catches. He doesn't have a ton of yards, but he's in the end zone.
Yep.
So I was excited about him last year when I saw him down at Westlake, and now, yeah, it's paying off. He's unreal. I saw Mickey in there making plays. I mean, there was a lot of guys making
Yeah.
plays, so it was real
They're
encouraged.
I'm always very skeptical of Notre Dame, as you know. Maybe that's living over a decade under Brian Kelly, but they're a good football team. They're a tough out for anybody, especially if they're going to try and run the football, because Hartman will make you pay. They're a tough out.
Yeah, it's
And
amazing what like sticking to a run game will do. And now you have a guy that can actually throw and produce as a quarterback, and you're absolutely right. I,
not only sticking to a run game, but running five backs.
yeah, yeah, because they were geared up for Estime at the beginning. He pulled them, and then they started bouncing outside and off tackle with some of the speedier guys, and it opened it up. And then I feel like once the weather cleared up, they got a little more confident in their pass game
Hmm.
because you really saw it open up. And again, the tight ends, we're starting to find them now. I know Mitchell Evans had that drop, which stunk, but
It was a drop.
it was a drop. He'll get it. I still have faith in them, but that
Holden
proved to be an X
Staes.
factor.
Holden Staes was unreal.
Unreal. I mean, he went off, and they had
Yeah.
no end, and he made some tough catches for a big guy.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. Few things here. 143 points scored through the first 3 games. That's the highest through 3 games for Notre Dame since 1944. That's a surprising year to me. Number one, there weren't a lot of schools scoring that many points in 44, so it tells you a lot about that era of Notre Dame football. And I also thought it was kind of surprising that, like a Charlie Weiss-led team didn't do it. But then again, they were greeted with a big-time opponent usually within the first game or second game. No disrespect to NC State, but, going to the big house is a little more of a challenge. So you're not usually putting up 40 there. If they go 40-plus against Central Michigan, so
They
in essence,
will. They're gonna.
they should. They should. I saw they're like 31.5 point favorites, I think, right now. That'll be the first time that's happened, I think, since like 1900, or it'll be, 4 in a row. So another amazing thing. I want to go look at the 1900 team because that's insane to me as well that they were putting up that type of points. Other than that, just very, very pleased, happy to get out of there because, I mean, like you, I'm a little skeptic of Notre Dame as well, just from years past. So you're always waiting for the other shoe to drop, and it was nice just to see them take care of business. And I feel like Notre Dame they just got strong in the fourth quarter. I mean, the whole game plan culminated in the fourth quarter, and they just buried them, which is
Buried
awesome.
them.
Yeah, normally you're hanging on for dear life with Notre Dame in the fourth quarter in years past. One other thing I want to bring up here, and I'll let you bring up anything you want to if you have something, but if you think about the start to college football for Notre Dame, and I'm not talking about Notre Dame's on-field success, but if you're vindictive at all, Brian Kelly's game against Florida State, you just got to laugh. Tommy Reese at Alabama last night did him. I realize he is a freshman quarterback, but
That guy's he's out of position.
I agree. But they're loaded everywhere. It wasn't a great game
He
plan.
can only throw a deep ball and run. He has nothing else. And he's electric when he runs,
Yeah.
but he's throwing deep.
So you got your revenge on Kelly, in a roundabout way, revenge on Tommy. Phil Jerkovich at Pitt. Did you see? So
They booed him.
they put him, but did you see he like called him out online then?
I heard. I didn't read it.
So it's just here we are now. You've kind of taken some things that you complained about the last few years, and now they're at other people's institutions, and it's just like the exact same thing that was going on at Notre Dame is just gone right over there. And I hope that I don't know if it was toxic or negative, but in my opinion, it's a huge plus to have that out, and I think it's showing up with this team because I'm not saying Notre Dame's going to win a title or any of that. It's not like that. They look crisp. They look a little more disciplined. I realize they had 10 penalties this Saturday, but it just feels different. Being 3-0 under this regime.
They are in 2 weeks. That is going to be a monster. because they're going to be primed. And my fear is they're catching Ohio State probably at the right time. They're not settled.
Mm-hmm.
My fear is they get by that. They'll beat Duke and they'll beat Louisville on the road. Duke might be ugly. Louisville might even be ugly. They're going to win those games. That USC game, which is the 8th straight week in a row they play, that's a tough out for them. They're going to be banged up.
And it's going to be, I mean, it's a tough out, even if they had that week off. But you're right; those factors are going to contribute to it being a little bit tougher.
But you can run on them. They got Ohio State. I know they're going to blast Central Michigan. They can't stop anyone.
I think they played New Hampshire.
Yeah, and won like 45-42 or something.
Yeah, it was a pretty close game because I had a little more faith in Central Michigan because, again, they looked all right versus Michigan State until, the talent disparity took over. In that
Did you
game.
see Mel Tucker got suspended?
I don't know how he's not going to get fired.
Yeah, he's going to get fired.
Right. And I know nothing about it. I'm not saying he's guilty or anything like that, but I mean, just the current environment, you're guilty until proven innocent. So, yeah, that's. I think that's their out also for this contract.
100% is he's going to get fired for cause.
Yes. So that's the other thing going on here. Hey, real quick, did you realize Notre Dame held NC State to 84 rushing yards?
Yeah. They couldn't run. And that's
2.8
not sacks.
No, right. 2.8 yards per rush on 30 carries.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. I mean, you're on the road just shutting them down, which is great.
And they only gave up really two big plays.
Yeah, they hit the bomb on Cam Hart.
Yeah, I'm saying their total yards are even. You can argue Notre Dame's total yards are inflated. They count. I'm not saying they don't, but a couple breakdowns and they're at like 150 yards total offense.
Yeah, it's that close. Hartman again with 4 TD passes. So what does he have for the year? Does he have 11 TDs and 0 ends, I think, for the year?
Yep.
So you can't beat that. Yeah.
Estime taking that to the house and outrunning those guys was
unbelievable.
I didn't think he had those kind of wheels.
I didn't think he was going to get it either. I saw him break 3, and I was like, all right, where's the corner safety? And then I saw them, and I was like, yo, they're not catching him.
No. They did not come close.
And they were so close to breaking so many other ones.
Oh, what's his name?
Jeremiah Love.
No, 24. Jadarian had that one run. He had one guy to beat. Just missed it. Same play. It was the same play. That was an unbalanced line that Estime broke that on. The same play the other way, Jadarian almost busted it. He couldn't shake the safety.
I thought, because I was running around during the delay, and then I got word it was going to start, so I came running back into the TV, and they had just snapped the ball. I thought it was like, I missed like 8 minutes, and this was a replay, and I was like, this is the first play.
Yeah.
They just came, I'm like, this is the first play, and I was like, I do, this was self-inflicted, but I was thinking like, man, I give NC State credit, because I thought that was going to be it. I mean, you just came out after a 2-hour delay, and they just jammed it, one play, 80 yards. I was like, that's it. They're not coming back. And then they came back and kicked the field goal. I'll tell you one other thing that I really, really like about this team is I feel that Notre Dame creates points when their opponent scores. And I realize Navy and Tennessee State. But they answered NC State twice. And kudos to Freeman for calling those timeouts on NC State's that drive with like 2 minutes to 1 minute when they cut it to 7.
One other nitpick there, and there's a history of this with Freeman, now Golden, and we've talked about this, obviously not on this. Notre Dame has a real problem, history of giving up points before half.
Yeah.
And that drive, they aided them with mistakes and penalties. You can't do that. And they had their foot on their throat.
Yeah.
They had their foot on their throat.
Yeah.
And let them off the mat. Now, I know they answered, but that's not going to happen. You can't do that.
I have one little nitpick thing, too, on the D. They got to delay this delayed blitz.
Their blitzes never get home.
They never, and they're so late. They're late. Yep. And then if you're bringing a corner over, especially when they go between the guards or the tackles, it's like the ball's already gone by the time he's making contact at the line. I'm like, just let him back.
And they're very vanilla with their blitz schemes. If you watch even NC State's blitz schemes, but that Alabama-Texas game, they gamble, but they're running a lot of twists and overloading specific gaps and getting home. Like they get free rushers out of it.
Well, NC
Now,
State did that in the first quarter.
yeah,
They
if you're gonna blitz, I'd rather do that rather than okay, I'm gonna run my safety into a guard.
right.
Like he's not getting there, and now you're
Right.
one man short.
Yeah, and it takes me back, as you know, we'll save this for another show, the worst call of 2022. There's one on offense and one on defense. The one on defense was versus Ohio State when they were up. Were they up 10-7 at that point? I think Notre Dame was up 10-7 with like a minute in the third quarter.
Yeah,
And they run that double blitz, double safety
on a
blitz
third down.
versus Ohio State.
Yeah, it was like 3rd and 7 too. Like
And from like what? I think they were in the red zone. If they weren't, they were just outside of the red zone. So
yeah,
it's not like there was a ton of real estate for Ohio State's receivers to work. So crowd the end zone.
yeah.
And that was a horrible call. I feel like there's an issue with these. They need to ditch the blitzes from corners and safeties unless the corner's right at the line and is just coming in, and you have someone that's going to drop back out.
How many sacks have they ever had
Right.
from a safety or a corner? They don't get there.
Tom
They don't get
Zimikowski.
there.
Touchdown Tommy.
Yeah,
Anything else that you want to add here before we wrap this up?
they're a good football team. They're
It
going to
scares
be
me
a tough
when you
out.
say this, Mike.
They're a good football team.
How about Clemson being unranked?
They should be.
No, I agree. They fell out. It's crazy to
Yeah.
think.
I never thought they'd drop Bama below Notre Dame,
I didn't either.
but they'll still jump us
Oh, as soon as they
unless
beat-
we take out Ohio State. If we take out Ohio State, you'll be comfortably ahead of them.
But again, this goes back to how meaningless that Alabama-Texas game was because that's one of Alabama's free losses. It means nothing to Alabama. If they win out, they are in. So they have that luxury.
They got more coming.
They could, but don't forget LSU. They were talking about them getting in with 2 losses. So you think they're not going to pay that same service to Bama? They will find every excuse to get them in.
I don't think they're going to be there at the end. Even I don't think they could have more than 2 losses. They have no quarterback play.
Yeah. No, it's true. I feel like the SEC is kind of they're not looking good this year. And I'll tell you what, the ACC slayed 4 SEC teams here this year.
The ACC's kicking their ass,
And how bad?
and it's A&M. They got bludgeoned.
And I think they had two drives of 10 yards for 14 points. There
Yeah,
was 2 muff punts, if I'm not. I know there was 1,
yeah,
and then they got bludgeoned. Yeah,
Yeah.
good for Miami.
yeah,
Yeah, I was rooting for
Yeah.
Miami all day long there.
yep.
Yep. With that said, I think we're going to wrap it up. We are going to try and drop some sort of video this week, hopefully a Mike program video, because he has an extensive collection. We'll somehow have to link it to Central Michigan, which could be an issue. We played them, once? Kelly had him in there. Didn't he?
Did he have Central?
I know he had Western.
I don't think we've played the Chippewas.
Yeah, we did.
Really? We might have. That's going to ruin my idea.
Why? Well, you have an idea already?
Yeah, but that'll ruin it.
If they played.
Yeah.
Why? See, now I'm curious, so we'll have to see. But I'm pretty sure maybe they didn't. Let's see. Yeah, so we'll drop something this week. They have not played. This will be the first, so your idea is safe, Mike. And
I'm going to dig deep in the archives.
there you go. I look forward to it. And he does have archives. He has receipts to show you too. So
Me and Dion.
yeah, you got your receipts. So we'll have a video come out this week with some just stuff from our collection or whatever, and then we will have a pregame show probably on Friday. And as always, if you guys have any questions, drop them in the comment, like, or subscribe. But for now, the Irish are 3-0, number 9 in the country. Go Irish.